What would you do if the person you loved most, the person you built a life with, tried to erase you from your own story? This isn't a movie plot. This is what happened to me. And by the time she realized her mistake, it was already too late. Before we get into the story that changed my life forever, if you appreciate a tale of justice served and seeing karma work in real time, hit that like button and subscribe and ring the bell, because what happened next, well, let's just say you're going to want to hear how it ends. My name is Oliver Thorne. I'm a 42-year-old structural engineer from a rainy city in the Pacific Northwest, sitting in the quiet hum of my home office, staring at an email that just dismantled my entire world. The timestamp read 11:47 p.m., her time. She was supposed to be at a silent meditation retreat in Bend, Oregon. The mountain air was supposed to be clearing her head. The email was from my wife of 10 years. It was only 3 lines. I've taken what's mine. The money is moved. Don't bother trying to find it. Attached was a single grainy photo. Chloe, her laugh lines crinkling in a way I hadn't seen in years. Her head tilted back. A man's arm was around her shoulder, a flash of a silver watch I didn't recognize. Behind them, the sun was setting over a desert landscape, not the pine trees of Bend. Somewhere dry, somewhere far away.
A coldness, sharp and precise, settled in the center of my chest. It wasn't the hot rush of anger I expected. It was the deep, glacial calm of absolute certainty. I closed my laptop. The click of the latch echoed in the silent room. I walked to the kitchen, my footsteps soundless on the oak floors we'd picked out together. I poured a glass of water, my hand steady. I stared out the window at the garden, my project, the raised beds I'd built with cedar planks, the intricate drip irrigation system I'd designed and installed over one long, sweaty weekend. She'd planted the heirloom tomatoes and the fragrant basil, humming while she worked. We were going to can salsa, she'd said. We were going to have a harvest dinner. All that work for a future she was already packing to leave. The money. $425,000. It wasn't just a number on a screen. It was my father. It was the smell of sawdust and old spice. He was a master carpenter, a man who built things with his hands that would outlast him. He'd scrimped and saved his whole life, denying himself everything so that his only son wouldn't have to struggle through engineering school like he did. A heart attack took him 3 years ago, swift and brutal. The inheritance was his final, silent act of love. His note, written in his shaky, blocky handwriting, was simple. For your foundation, build something strong, son. I looked at my phone. No missed calls, no frantic texts asking if I'd seen her message, if I was okay, if it was some terrible joke. Just the deafening silence of a void where my marriage used to be. The signs had been there, I realized, painting a picture I'd refused to see. Chloe's retreats had multiplied. A weekend away became a 4-day industry seminar, became a week-long spiritual reset. Her phone, which used to charge on her nightstand, now lived in her purse, screen down on every surface. The passcode on her iPad, which had been our anniversary for a decade, suddenly changed.
3 months ago, her interest in our finances had become clinical. Wouldn't it be smarter to consolidate your dad's money with our investments? She'd asked over a dinner of roasted chicken, her tone light, almost bored. We're paying more in fees this way. I could manage it better. I'd nodded, mumbled something about looking into it, and let the subject drop. The money was safe. It was separate. It was my father's. I thought that was the end of it. I reopened the laptop, read the email again. No greeting. No, "Dear Oliver." No, "I'm sorry."
just the clinical declaration of theft. The finality of it was its own special kind of violence. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Rage, grief, desperation, they all fought for control of my fingers. But the cold calm won. I typed 5 words. Understood. Safe travels. Oh. Then I closed the laptop, finished my water, and went to bed. But not to our bed. I went to the guest room, the sheets smelling faintly of lavender detergent and disuse. Lying in the dark, staring at the ceiling, I realized something that should have horrified me, but instead felt like a truth I'd been ignoring for a year. I slept more soundly than I had in months, knowing she wasn't coming home. What Chloe didn't know, what her arrogance had blinded her to, was that the foundation she was trying to blow up wasn't made of sand. It was reinforced concrete. And I'm an engineer. I know how things are built. And more importantly, I know how to make them collapse safely, on my terms. I'd felt the first tremors 6 months ago, a shift in the atmosphere. The inheritance had never been where she thought it was. Her clumsy, greedy attempt to grab it hadn't stolen my future. It had handed me the blueprints to hers. I met Chloe 12 years ago at a sustainability conference in Vancouver. She was a whirlwind of ambition and light, launching an eco-conscious skincare line, looking for designers to help conceptualize her flagship store. I was young in my career, hungry for projects that had soul, not just steel and concrete. We were married within 2 years. We built a life in Seattle. We bought a modern craftsman in Ballard with a garden she adored. No kids. The company is my child, she'd say. And I'd nod, understanding that my blueprints were mine. For a long time it worked. I designed earthquake-resistant structures. She built her empire of lotions and potions. We were the golden couple, the ones who hosted dinner parties with locally sourced everything and had the perfect Instagram life. Then my dad died. The grief was a physical weight. I took time off to settle his estate in Spokane, to sit in the quiet of his workshop and breathe in the ghost of him. Chloe came out once. She stayed for a day. All this sadness, Ollie, she whispered, clutching her coat tight. It's suffocating. She left the next morning. I didn't ask her to stay. When the lawyer read the will, the amount stunned me. My frugal dad had been secretly investing for decades. Chloe's surprise was palpable, and it quickly morphed into a keen, sharp interest. We should use it to franchise the business, she suggested, her eyes already calculating. My business, she meant. I need to do what Dad would have wanted, I'd said, and I saw the first flicker of something hard in her eyes, a door closing. That was the first crack. Then came the supplier conferences in California, the hushed phone calls in the garden that ended the second I stepped outside. Our friend and neighbor, Mrs. Gable, an elderly woman with the eyes of a hawk, mentioned seeing a sleek black Audi SUV dropping Chloe off late one night. "Thought you were in Portland for that bridge inspection, Oliver," she said innocently, handing me a container of her famous shortbread. I thanked her. I ate the cookies, and I filed the information away in a newly opened mental folder labeled Things That Don't Add Up. Then 2 weeks before her final retreat, my financial advisor, an unflappable woman named Brenda, called.
"Oliver, we've had some unusual activity," she said, her voice crisp and professional. "Someone has been attempting to access information on your protected accounts. They have your personal data, but are failing the secondary authentication." A chill, colder than the Seattle rain, went down my spine. "Which accounts?" I asked, though I already knew. "The inheritance accounts from your father's estate," she confirmed. "They tried yesterday and again this morning." I thanked Brenda, hung up, and sat in the silence of my office for a very long time. The numbers in my head weren't stress calculations for a building. They were the coordinates of my wife's betrayal. That night, Chloe was unusually affectionate. "We should really simplify our lives," she murmured, tracing a pattern on my arm. "Merge all our accounts. All these different logins are a nightmare. I could take care of it all for us." "You're probably right," I said, my voice a perfect mirror of calm. "I'll call Brenda tomorrow and see what that process looks like." The next day, I drove to Spokane. I met with my father's attorney, a man named Arthur Finch, who had hands like gnarled oak and a mind like a steel trap. I laid it out for him, fact by fact, document by document, without a trace of emotion. "Your father was a very smart man," Arthur said, steepling his fingers. "The testamentary trust he insisted on is ironclad. The principle is untouchable by anyone but you, and it is completely separate from marital property. Any attempt to access or transfer those funds without your explicit, documented authorization is," he paused, letting the weight of the words settle, "is not just a breach of trust, it is a felony-level fraud. We can have it documented, monitored, and ready." "Let's do it," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "Set up every alarm bell you have." I returned home to find Chloe packing, already halfway out the door. She gave me a perfunctory kiss, her mind already in the desert with him. "This retreat is a big one," she said, barely making eye contact. "Oh, I might stay an extra week, really connect with the vision."
I helped her load her bags into her Tesla, the one we had paid for, and watched her drive away. I didn't feel a thing. Back inside, I didn't rifle through her drawers, I didn't hack her emails. I simply opened our shared cloud drive, the one we used for household documents. In a folder labeled Home Reno Ideas, Future, buried beneath paint swatches and floor plans, I found her treasure trove of evidence. Screenshots of my account summaries, downloaded PDFs of the trust's terms and conditions, notes she'd typed, primary act number, security key, mother's maiden name, bypass 2FA, pretend to be him, and a photo of a note she'd written to herself. $425K minus 15% for setup equals $361,250. Clean break. She hadn't just had a fleeting thought. She'd drawn up architectural plans for the demolition of our life. She'd been measuring twice and cutting once for months. I walked through our beautiful empty house. The Eames chair, the curated art prints, the hand-blown glass vase from Sweden. It all felt like a stage set, and the lead actress had just walked off the stage for good. The pain was there, a dull ache, but it was overshadowed by something else, a crystalline, terrifying clarity. For the first time, I saw our marriage not as a partnership, but as a facade she was no longer interested in maintaining. She was terminating the contract because she'd found a better deal. I slept in the guest room again. The next morning, I started making calls. By the time her email arrived 5 days later, my countermeasures were already in place. The trap was set, and she had just sprung it herself. I waited a full 24 hours after her email. No rage, no pleading, just silence. Let her sit in the desert sun and wonder. Let her think her plan had worked perfectly.
My first call was to Brenda and Arthur Finch. I forwarded them Chloe's email with a single sentence. "As discussed, please log this for the record." Their responses were immediate. Received. Documented. My second call was to a divorce attorney named Isabel Rossi, a shark in a tailored suit whom Arthur had recommended. Hypothetically, I'd said to her months ago, if someone were to... She'd listened, asked sharp, precise questions, and said, hypothetically, they would be in an exceptionally strong position. Her assistant fit me in that afternoon. By noon, a text from Chloe popped up. "Did you get my email?" I waited 20 minutes. Yes. The typing bubbles appeared immediately, dancing with her irritation. That's it? That's all you have to say? I didn't answer. I was already driving into the city, to Isabel Rossi's sleek high-floor office. Arthur Finch joined via video call, his face grim on the large monitor. "The attempted transfer is a gift," Isabel said, her eyes scanning the documents Arthur had sent over. "The funds are clearly separate property. The trust structure is impeccable. Her email is an admission of intent. Combined with the unauthorized access attempts Brenda logged, we're not just talking about divorce. We're talking about criminal liability." "What's next?" I asked, my voice steady. "We file for divorce. Immediately. We cite financial misconduct, fraud, and dissipation of marital assets. We freeze everything. We make it known that we are considering pressing charges." I signed the papers right there. At 4:45 p.m., my phone rang. Chloe. I answered. Silence on my end. "You're being pathetic, Oliver," she hissed. "No hello, no how are you. This doesn't have to be messy. The money is moved. Fighting me will just cost you more in legal fees. Be an adult."
I agree, I said, my voice flat. "Let's be adults. Where are you staying?" The question threw her. "What? Why does that matter?" "Just curious where home is now," I said. "Focus, Oliver. We need to discuss the financials. I'm having my lawyer drop settlement papers. Let's keep this clean." "Who's your lawyer?" asked. "Marcus DeWitt. He's already on it." I wrote down the name. "That's helpful. Thank you." "Are you even listening to me?" Her voice was rising, fraying at the edges. "You said it doesn't have to be difficult. I appreciate your concern for making this easy." The calm in my voice was a weapon she didn't know how to fight. Another pause. I could almost hear her recalculating, misinterpreting my calm for surrender. "It's for the best," she said, her tone softening into a patronizing drip. "We've been growing apart for years. This is cleaner." "You're right. Cleaner is better." After we hung up, I called Isabel and gave her Marcus DeWitt's name. Then I sent a final text to Chloe. "Taking some time to process. My lawyer will reach out when ready to discuss."
Her response was instant. "Don't take too long. Papers will be ready Friday." Friday, 3 days away. Perfect. At 6:15 p.m., Arthur called. "The monitoring system has been busy," he said. 3 more attempted transfers today, all from an IP address in Palm Springs, California. Not Bend. All documented, all blocked. We also have evidence of data exports from your home network last month. Timestamps, device IDs, the works. I thanked him, hung up, and walked through my empty museum of a house. In the kitchen, I opened the bottle of expensive scotch we'd been saving for a milestone I couldn't even remember. I poured a glass. I didn't pour one for her. Chloe thought she was the architect of this disaster. She didn't realize she was just the demolition crew, following my controlled blueprints. The next morning, Marcus DeWitt called. His voice was slick, professionally cautious. "Mr. Thorne, I'm representing Chloe in your separation. She indicates you're amenable to a straightforward settlement regarding the asset division." "Is that what she said?" I asked. A slight hesitation. "She mentioned you understood the situation." "Which situation would that be specifically?" Another pause. I could hear the soft click of a pen. "The division of assets, including the recent inheritance funds." "Has she shown you the structure of those funds, Mr. DeWitt? The irrevocable testamentary trust, the legal impossibility of her ever having moved them."
The silence on the other end was profound. It was the sound of a lawyer realizing his client has just handed him a suitcase full of evidence against herself. "Mr. DeWitt," I said, my voice still calm, "I suggest you verify the information you've been given before you proceed any further. My attorney will be sending a package to your office today. Have a good one." I hung up. The game had just changed. I drove to the bank. Our longtime manager, a kind man named Ben, pulled up our joint accounts, his face falling as he scrolled. "Oliver, there have been some substantial withdrawals," he said quietly. He turned the monitor. Transfers over the last 4 months, starting at a few $1,000s, then growing. $5,000, $10,000, then a massive $55,000 transfer just last week, all going to an account at something called Sierra Soul Credit Union, an account in her name only. The address listed was a condo in Palm Springs. The total, $212,000. She hadn't just planned her escape. She'd been funding it with our shared life, dollar by dollar. By the time I got to Isabel's office, she had news. Complication. Chloe has hired new counsel, Liam Croft. I knew the name. A barracuda. Expensive, brutal, and effective. He's filed for an emergency hearing to contest the misconduct claims. Says his client has evidence all financial decisions were mutually agreed upon. Hearing is Monday. 3 days. I thought of the Palm Springs condo, the mysterious man with the silver watch, and the $212,000 of our money she'd siphoned away. "Let's give Mr. Croft something to think about," I said. That afternoon, Isabel sent a courier to Croft's office. The package contained everything: the trust access logs, the bank records tracing her theft, the lease agreement for the Palm Springs condo, a sworn affidavit from Mrs. Gable describing the black Audi and the late-night drop-offs, and the screenshots from the Home Reno folder, Chloe's own handwritten notes on how to steal from me.
By 5 p.m., Isabel got the call. Liam Croft himself, requesting an urgent meeting to discuss settlement options. "He's seen enough," Isabel told me, a faint smile on her lips. "He's offering a clean split. She keeps what she took. You keep everything else. The house, your retirement, the full inheritance." She walks away. "Counter," I said, the cold calm still guiding me. "She returns half of what she took from the joint accounts, $106,000, and she signs a strict non-disclosure agreement. In return, I do not pursue criminal fraud charges. I just want to be done." Isabel raised an eyebrow. "You could go for all of it. You could bury her." "I don't want to bury her," I said. "I just want her out of my life." The morning of the hearing, Chloe and Liam Croft arrived at the courthouse ready for a fight. They found Isabel waiting alone in a consultation room with a set of settlement papers. No judge, no spectacle. I watched through the slightly frosted glass as Isabel laid out the terms. Chloe would return $106,000 within 24 hours. She would relinquish all claim to the inheritance and any other assets. She would sign an NDA, never speaking a word about me, our marriage, or the divorce. In exchange, I would not pursue criminal fraud charges. I saw the moment the reality hit her. Isabel slid the evidence file across the table. Chloe's face, initially set in defiant anger, shifted as she flipped through the pages. She saw the photos of the Palm Springs condo. She saw her own notes. She saw Mrs. Gable's statement. The defiance crumbled into shock, then into a pale, stunned defeat. She glanced toward the window where I stood, then quickly looked away, ashamed.
Liam Croft leaned in, whispering urgently in her ear. After a long moment, she gave a single sharp nod. They entered the room. "My client accepts the terms," Croft said, his voice devoid of its earlier bluster.
Isabel slid the agreement across. Chloe signed without reading it, her signature a shaky scrawl. I signed mine, my hand steady. Then I slid a separate, small envelope across to her. "What's this?" she asked, her voice hollow, the first words she'd spoken to me in weeks. "The passwords," I said, "to the cloud drive, the security system, the smart home controls. Everything you might need to get the rest of your things." Her eyes finally met mine. She was searching for gloating, for hatred, for some sign that this had emotionally destroyed me. She found nothing, just a calm, empty space where my love for her used to be. She looked lost, small. "It was never about the money," I said, my voice so quiet only she and Croft could hear it. That would have been simpler. Arthur touched her elbow, guiding her out. She clutched the envelope like a lifeline and never looked back. 6 months later, I sold the house in Ballard. The new owners, a couple of musicians, loved the garden and the light in the kitchen. I moved into a renovated warehouse loft near my firm. I bought a new desk. I kept the Eames chair. Arthur helped me restructure my father's inheritance. We created the James Thorne Foundation, funding trade scholarships for aspiring carpenters and engineers, kids who wanted to build things with their hands and their minds. The first recipient was an 18-year-old who'd been caring for his younger siblings since his parents passed. His application essay was about building homes that could withstand any storm. My dad would have loved him. One afternoon, checking my mail in the lobby, I found a plain white envelope with no return address. Inside was a cashier's check for exactly $106,000, the rest of what she owed.
There was a single line on a slip of paper. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. It was never about the money for me either." No signature. None was needed. That evening, I walked down to the pier. Chloe and I had once talked about buying a boat and renovating it together, taking it up the coast. Another dream shelved and forgotten. I sat on a bench, the check in my pocket. The water was slate gray, choppy. The next day, I would deposit it into the foundation. Another scholarship, another chance to build something strong. My phone buzzed. It was Brenda, my financial advisor. "Dinner still on for 7? My friend, the landscape architect, is excited to meet you." I looked at my watch. I had just enough time to walk home, change, and decide to say yes to whatever came next. I texted back, "Looking forward to it." I stood up and faced the cool evening air. The strongest structures aren't the ones that never get tested. They're the ones that withstand the quake, are inspected for damage, and are retrofitted to be even stronger than before. Sometimes the most powerful response to betrayal isn't revenge. It's a quiet, unshakable renovation of the soul. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have gone for the full revenge? Or were you satisfied with how it ended? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you felt that justice was served, share this story with someone who needs to see that even when things seem to be falling apart, you can still build a new foundation. Thanks for listening.